Welcome, and thank you for attending this first in a series of sessions designed to showcase BTP for HR. Joining us today from SAP are Mick Collins, Global Go-to-Market VP for BTP and SuccessFactors, along with Balaji, Senior Director of SAP's BTP team. From Commentec, its founder and presenter today, Frank Mertens. Joining Frank from Commentec is Gauthier de Smit, Director of Operations. You'll notice a QA button at the bottom of your screen. If you hover, we encourage you to submit questions that we will try our best to get back to you today during the session. The session will be recorded and available after today's meeting. You'll also get the slides and a template that you'll hear more about later. Without further ado, let me bring in Mick Collins from SAP to provide a quick overview of BTP from his perspective. Mick?
Thank you, Eric. So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's session. And firstly, let me say a huge thank you to the team at Commentec for investing the time into this webinar. They are HR integration experts. We've been working with them for many years now. They're really the people that we go to when we have these deep integration questions about how to build a strategy for HR integrations, but also then how to execute that as well. So as Eric mentioned, I'm going to take just a couple of minutes really to explain why we're here today with this webinar session, and probably more importantly, why we think you're here as well, and what you can learn coming out of the next 45 minutes or so. I'm going to start just by level setting. For many of you, you are SAP SuccessFactors customers already, so thank you for the investment that you've made with us as well. The way I think about it in terms of being a customer is having access to three different types of capabilities. The first is native within the SuccessFactors suite. So many of you are using Employee Central. You may also be using the Talent Management HCM suite as well. We have new innovations we're putting forth. You're probably hearing a lot about AI and Joule and Payroll and Talent Intelligence Hub. All of these solutions are available natively inside the SAP SuccessFactors suite. Then from there, we have our ecosystem. So we have over 350 partners who've built applications that are placed in the SAP store that are available to you and that integrate with SuccessFactors. So there may be a bespoke application that you can purchase off the shelf that works with SuccessFactors and provides a specific capability. And then thirdly, we talk a lot about limitless innovation. So for those of you that are looking to build even more unique applications, you're looking to move towards an integration platform, as we're talking about here today. If you're looking to do more workforce planning and analytics with the data inside SuccessFactors, we offer the SAP Business Technology Platform. So in terms of being a SuccessFactors customer, you first of all get access to our applications off the shelf. You then can purchase applications from our partners and also build yourself using BTP. And that specifically is what we're talking about here. We're going to get into integration with the team from Commentec in just a moment. But first, let me just explain a little bit more about what BTP is specifically. There are 5 pillars that the platform provides. Application development for creating new applications on top of SuccessFactors. Process automation for automating many of those manual or complex processes that we see in HR every day. Integration, which we'll get into in just a moment. Data analytics, workforce planning is number 4, and then AI is number 5. And our HR customers use these in a variety of ways, and there are a couple of examples here that you see towards the bottom left-hand side of the page. So whether it's targeting a specific population or a very specific need, our customers are building extensions on top of SuccessFactors. They're automating processes that exist within their own organization that may not be covered by the SuccessFactors processes. That might be sending offer letters to candidates, for example, or ensuring that a termination process is followed appropriately. They're integrating SAP products with third-party providers and with the legislated organizations to improve data and process management. They're certainly doing workforce planning, which is a passion of mine, and I think a really important topic for a lot of our customers who are trying to think about building that workforce of the future. And then they're supplementing what AI we provide inside of SuccessFactors, embedded within SuccessFactors with their own AI models as well. So specifically now, let's talk a little bit about Integration Suite. So again, I think many of you on the call today own or use SuccessFactors Employee Central. You probably use some of our talent management applications as well. You see these here on the left-hand side. We talk about SAP Integration Suite as being the connective tissue between those solutions, other SAP solutions, partner and third-party offerings, and also service providers and authorities. So for today, one of the things to think about is how can I use SAP Integration Suite to connect my SuccessFactors application to all the other HR systems that we manage today with a view to improving our data quality, the strength of our business processes, the experience for employees who are using different systems to address a particular process, and so on and so forth. So we're going to talk heavily about SAP Integration Suite here today. And whilst the team at Commentech is going to go through some examples of use cases for Integration Suite, there are a couple of things to think about here. First of all, if you have a very complex software portfolio, SAP Integration Suite can help you harmonize and integrate those portfolios. Again, a combination of what we have here at SAP, plus what you might be using from other providers as well. Maybe you're looking to improve data quality and noting that data is so important today, not just for the purpose of process health, but moving that data into analytics and workforce planning. Maybe you're looking to optimize some of your HR processes, onboarding, terminations, referenced here, that span multiple applications and can be very frustrating if we don't have that platform or that backbone in place. Or perhaps you're thinking about the end user experience. And if that is the front of the store, the top of the house, the Integration Suite, therefore, is the plumbing behind the scenes that maybe your employees don't see, but it certainly delivers a better experience. So hopefully now you understand why you're here today at this call, what we're going to talk about across the course of the next 45 minutes with respect to how Integration Suite can specifically help you maximize the investment you've made in Employee Central. And we look forward to hearing your questions and addressing those today. So with that, Frank, I'm going to turn to you to kick us off into the material.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Mick. That's really teeing it up here. Let me make sure I share my screen here so that we can kick things off. I think I'm sharing my screen right now. So let's start here. So with the tee up on what is BTP, today's session, really, we want you to understand how to build a strategy for this. That's really the main outcome of today. Secondly, realize why integration is the foundation of a successful HR BTP technology strategy. So all the things that Mick showed earlier, those are possible because of the integration, and we'll show you why that is. But also, we want you to walk away with an actionable first step that you can do actually tomorrow or today with regards to an integration strategy. But really, it's about building a strategy and understanding why integration. So let me put some context here. BTP for HR is really important. First and foremost, we see that HRIT leaders, for instance, who successfully transformed technology into tangible business value, we see that they have things in common. And most of all, they lead the way with BTP. They lead the way how BTP is implemented. So what do? These HRIT leaders, they actually take an active role in shaping the technology strategy. So ensuring it serves HR's unique needs. We see, secondly, that they work closely together with the business on driving these outcomes, on driving value they bring to the organization. And third of all, they really understand how to connect the technology investments to the business initiatives. Because the pitfall that we see is approaching BTP purely from a technology angle, to see it as a separate thing that needs to be done. But really integrating this with the business is something that is obvious, but it's not simple. The most common concern we hear from HRIT leaders is really how do we articulate that technology investment in tangible business outcomes? And that's really what the focus is of what we're going to do with this series of BTP webinars, is help you understand the use cases of what you can do with BTP so that you can tie them to the actual business initiatives. And the technology will run throughout this. But first, why are you uniquely positioned to drive that? So the combination really of these three elements, these three critical elements, where they come together, this is why you are uniquely positioned to drive that. As an HRIT leader, you understand your people. You know your people best. You also see the big picture. You see the business needs, the organizational challenges that are come your way, and then we can bring in the technology as is needed to see the actual impact. So building that foundation for success is really where you are uniquely positioned. One thing as well that I wanted to highlight is that HR has kind of a unique position when it comes down to technology. Oftentimes, when we look at the organization, HR has unique challenges that we see less in other, let's say, lines of business or domains within the organization. I mean, you see them here: fast changing technology, cloud adoption, etc. HR has a complexer data model. But what I wanted you to retain from this, oftentimes what it ends up, HR has more limited resources, so we have to do more with less. And that's really where I want you to understand that BTP presents a unique opportunity to address that. One simple example could be limiting how we support technology, because if we bring our skill sets into BTP and align it, what I want you to see later on is how you can make more or do more with less, actually. When we look at BTP, Mick already showed earlier what BTP can do. We have these 5 pillars: application development, automation, integration, data analytics, and AI. We start with integration because that's the foundation. And what I want to show you in the next couple of slides is why is that the foundation. But it is important to understand that all of this won't be possible without good integration. So why do we start with integration? So the simple analogy here is, think of data flow within your organization as your organization's nervous system. And just as a nervous system transmits signals throughout the body to different functions, the data flow in your organization makes sure that all other things are coming alive. So you have your core HR system, but all these other systems like payroll, benefits, time, talent, etc. When data is not flowing, nothing actually will work. And the same thing within BTP. So if we want to take advantage of process automation, data and analytics, AI, and app development, we need that data to flow at the speed and accuracy that we need to serve value in there. So the first thing to remember, without proper data flow, none of these capabilities can really deliver on their potential. So integration isn't just another capability of BTP, it's really the foundation to make sure that all of this data actually flows. What do we see when these systems do not communicate? Well, there is a lot of impact that you can see right here. There are challenges throughout. I mean, simple things like if the core HR doesn't communicate well with other systems, well, people are waiting to start with their job. When we have a new hire, they can't do what they need to do. There's compliance issues, there's operational efficiencies, a lot of manual workarounds. And I think everyone can identify issues that occur when systems do not communicate. So it's important to start building in the right order. So the lesson learned is start with a strong data foundation, understand where does my data rely, and making sure we build the connections to make sure that that data actually flows. And then on top of that, we can actually add the innovative capabilities like AI, data analytics, building applications to close gaps, etc. All of these are also confirmed. There is a recent study that actually ASOG did, the American SAP User Group did, on the impact of integration. One of the things that really stood out was data quality. It seems to be a challenge in a lot of organizations, and they indicated like 33% struggles with data inconsistencies, and that means data throughout my system ecosystem. So you can see the impact here as well, but especially in HR, we see the impact on, let's say, the employee experience, the ability to leverage the data throughout the systems, people seeing that data is not properly synchronized, and that even could have security and compliance issues. So really where we want to put the emphasis is that to do all of that, SAP BTP Integration Suite is really uniquely positioned, and especially for HR with our unique challenges, this the SAP BTP Integration Suite is a no-brainer for us to adapt. The points that I want to highlight here is the immediate value for SAP customers. The SAP BTP Integration Suite has been comes with pre-built content. So when we purely look at HR, there are more than 279 pre-built HR integrations, which means that you have immediate value when you use them. You don't have to build anything. And on top of that, you don't have to maintain and upgrade them either, because they will be provided and be upgraded. There's a ton of APIs, etc. The second point that I want to make is this is an enterprise-ready platform. So it's fully featured. It has all the components we need in an enterprise, but also future-looking things like event-driven architecture, etc., are features that are part of the integration suite. So it's full-featured. The impact that we can make, I want to illustrate here on the right bottom, is really the total cost of ownership and the faster time to value. This is something that we hear the HR folks primarily needing is how can we quicker deliver value to the business? So when we have a new request, for instance, for an integration, can we deliver something in a matter of weeks versus months? And this is really where you need to look at the integration suite to drive that value. So the speed of implementation, as well as leveraging these pre-built components. And we'll show that actually throughout. Here's just one example. I think this is a central hub that everyone should be aware of. This is just one of the resources that SAP provides, but we really have a nicely documented overview. So when you go to the SAP Business Accelerator Hub, this is really a very valuable resource, not only for HR IT leadership, it's for architects as well as developers, a central hub to find what that value is. So you can browse the packages, the integration flows, etc., that are available around this. Just one of the resources available to you. So what I want to do today is really walk you through a common scenario that we see in the market, which is moving from on-premise SAP HR to SuccessFactors. And I just want to use that scenario because it offers the opportunity to look at a situation where we have to move many integrations, move them from on-prem to the cloud. So we have integration at scale. And it's a scenario that provides the opportunity to take time to do it the proper way. And so based on the scenario, we can derive, okay, how do we apply this to other scenarios? But I just want to illustrate using this example to just to level set everyone on what that actually means. I kind of drew up the scenario here, but on the left-hand side, you see where are we starting from? On the right-hand side, where are we going? So what we see is customers who have been running SAP HR, sometimes for 10, 15, 20 years, are now looking to adopt the core HR with SuccessFactors in the cloud. So a scenario that we often see is moving your core HR from SAP HR, which we see here on the left, to SuccessFactors. And in that move, they focus on minimal cloud integration to allow time to properly set up the SuccessFactors environment. So in that case, we move 1, 2, 3 integrations to the cloud, but we keep the majority of those integrations on-prem. That really gives them time to figure out the strategy of what do we do with the integrations that we have on-prem and fully focus on implementing SuccessFactors first. So the second move is here. Now, what do we do with this? So let's take a step back and see what are some of the advantages that we can leverage for modernization options in the future. So this is kind of the scenario that a lot of customers go through. The first thing when we say, well, we need to move a lot of these integrations over from on-prem to the cloud, is looking at what's the vision here? How do we put together the vision of what better integration looks like? So what we do want to avoid is let's say, taking a lift and shift, have a pure technical move from what we have today, we're going to establish tomorrow. So what are the key vision elements? The first one is maintain one-to-one equivalence, which doesn't mean we do a technical lift and shift, but we look at what we have today, making sure that we have what we need. A good example in that case is a lot of customers have leveraged their payroll integrations, leveraging the PU12 framework, if you're familiar with that, but it provides a way to very securely process data changes in the SAP HR environment and then send, let's say, Delta changes over to the payroll provider. So replicating this in the cloud will be a very safe way to do that. So we want to not just take what we have, but really implement this in the cloud by focusing on the functionality. The second point is making sure we improve security. Oftentimes, the older or legacy integrations use file-based processing. At least make sure we have file-based encryption, but customers also move to more APIs-based scenarios. The other opportunity for improvement is control and visibility, making sure we have proper monitoring and that we also have the ability to trace what is happening. One key element in there as well is trying to avoid noise. So instead of just generating errors, is looking at ways to actually filter out the noise in monitoring. And overall, looking at how can we lower the total cost of ownership? And that means we already looked at pre-packaged integration content, but also looking at establishing reusable components. So instead of taking 5 integrations and building 5 in the cloud, how can we bring together 5 integrations and maybe end up with 2 so that we can improve the quality of what we have, reuse, and lower the build costs, because this will also impact the maintenance and the operation cost as well. And then obviously the enablement of future innovation. So we want to take advantage of the modernization options that we have. So what we use to do this is what we call our proven framework. We have been using this framework for over 10 years to really reach the objective of making our customers self-sufficient in running this program and reduce the total cost of ownership. And it really is based on 3 basic pillars. First of all, let's make sure everyone can see the same thing. That's what we call our envision. So we look at where are we going, what are we trying to do, and making sure everyone is aligned around this. The second step is where we're going to enable your team to drive this and build together models that we can take so that in the third step, we can really execute our strategy with confidence and scale the integrations. I'm going to list out a couple of components of that envision. You see the most important here. It all starts with the integration inventory. This is a key critical component. We cannot start without it. We will also provide a template later on in the presentation that you can start with. This, if there's one thing to remember from today's presentation, the inventory is really the starting point, because now we can lay out what we have and where we want to go. So we're going to tie in business priorities, patterns, criticality, etc., and timing. So one pretty big component. Obviously, with the inventory, we're going to identify modernization options, which includes oftentimes file to API transitions. So move away from file to API. The main reason there is with APIs, we have an ability to get immediate feedback. With a file, for instance, when I send a file over to my vendor, I don't necessarily know whether or not that file was processed correctly. So either we move to API based, or we're going to ask vendors to send us that feedback back into our environment to also know what's going on. Enhanced security, etc. We're all going to try to identify these modernization options. And then the third point is bringing this all together. One of the key elements is on the bottom right here. We call this our POPE. That's a plan on a page. And plan on a page is really bringing together the different streams within your implementation, because it's not only about integration, it's also aligning with the other functional implementations here as well. Then once we have identified our vision, we're all aligned on what we're going to do. That's where we're going to shift to focusing on modeling. Front and center is here in the middle, enable team success, or enabling your team to drive this. So we want to make sure our customers take ownership of driving this. So we're going to enable them with the right training, but also see what does good integration look like. We then use the opportunity to model, let's say, integration patterns together. So you get a real good understanding of what good integration looks like. And then we're going to scale that later on during the phased implementations, working alongside you and support you to deliver on this. And this model together really gets strategic integration results. We see tangible cost benefits of taking that approach. First of all, the reduced build cost, which is really driven by the pre-configured content or pre-delivered content that comes with the BTP suite, but also that approach that allows us to look at the inventory and optimize and focus on lowering the effort to build high quality integration. As a result, let's not only look at the build cost, which is the initial short-term value or cost, but the operational costs that follow. Good integration, think about data quality, think about process efficiency, think about monitoring and error handling. That operational cost is something that is recurring. So building quality integration really pays dividends ongoing. And then the third component that we see is the faster time to value. When we have these patterns, when we have an approach, it becomes a lot easier to respond to business needs. We hear often, oh, why does it take months to get something done? Well, if you have, let's say, 50 integrations, they're all built individually as 50 integrations, there's no synergy, no standardization, well, then it takes time to figure out what needs to be done when there are changes coming your way. But if you have a strategy and you have an approach to doing this, the time to value is a lot quicker. So your responses to the business will follow. Here, once we have gone through, let's say, the implementation, I want to point out a couple of misconceptions that we often hear. And right after that, what we'll do is move into the questions. Common misconceptions. So what we hear a lot is like, oh, well, the migration or integration is too complex and expensive. Well, think about this. The pre-built content that we show and the proven frameworks really reduce complexity. Where complexity comes in, and that's everywhere, is when you don't have an approach and when you don't have a structured way of doing things. And frankly, pre-built integration is freeing up time for you to focus on the quality. So the effort comes down, freeing up time to really take things or do things the right way. Another one is, while when we move to the cloud and we move to a cloud environment, we lose control over our integrations. Well, this is something that I think also comes really in with moving to the BTP platform. So we can look at the integration suite as fully featured, comes with a lot of the innovation components, also comes with its monitoring, but there's also the integration and the broader ecosystem within the SAP solutions. For instance, like leveraging Cloud ALM, which allows you to add a lot more capability there as well to monitor your resources, certificates on security, as well as end-to-end tracking. And that's something that we'll show as well in future webinars. One that we hear a lot is we lack internal expertise to maintain it, or we don't have the resources. Well, the fact that adopting the BTP suite gives you a full-featured environment. The templates help here as well, but consolidating the skill sets that you need around BTP allow you to focus them and build up that expertise a lot more. And another one is, well, our current integrations work. Why do we need to change? Well, it's all about future-proofing that HR landscape. All the features that we saw at the beginning, modernizing integration will put in that baseline, that foundation for you to take advantage of that. Without good integration, remember, we can't enable all these, let's say, advanced features like AI, automation, analytics, etc. So with that, what I wanted to do is go to questions. I think Gauthier, you have been monitoring some of the questions here.
I've been monitoring some of the questions, yes. So maybe we'll start with a quick one. So we had a question about where we can access the SAP Business Accelerator Hub, because we went very quickly through that. So the URL for that is api.sap.com. So api.sap.com. So in that hub, it's you'll see not only the pre-built integration or pre-packaged integration, but also you can view like processes, automation, extensions, etc. So if you've never browsed through it, we highly recommend that you have a look at that, because there's a lot of content in there. So we will make sure that we share the link also in a follow-up. Exactly, thank you. Then we have a question. I think you already answered it, but it's probably worth coming back to that because it's an important question. Someone said that they also struggle to justify the technology investment and translate that into business value. Maybe, Frank, if you want to recap, how do you recommend approaching that?
Yeah, that's a very good point. So one of the easy ways to tackle this is really sitting down with the business and go through the initiatives that are coming up in the future and making a list of those initiatives. Then on the other hand, what we have is knowing what can be done with technology, like the integration, but also the other aspects, allow us to think about how can we pair this. So it's really putting in that foundation learning about what can BTP do for me. We can build better integration. That's one thing, but we'll also see in the future sessions, for instance, around application building. So, for instance, we get the question to build an extension that might pull from different systems, success factors as my core, and then potentially a recruiting system to build like a visual of and I see all my candidates here. So how do we enable that? Obviously, the answer is technology, but knowing what are all the capabilities, now we can bring them together. So I think the key is sitting down with the business, going through these opportunities, have a continuous discussion on that, and then knowing what are the technology components that we need, and then each time take that opportunity to inject some of this. But I think preparation is the key, and knowing what technology can bring. Hopefully that answers that question.
Absolutely, thank you. Another one that is not really an easy answer, but I think, I mean, we're hearing that a lot. Is someone says that they have another integration platform with their organization, but they do see the value of adopting the prepackaged integration with SAP Integration Suite. So the question is, there is what consideration they should take into account.
Yeah, let me see. I think we have some some content here which might is related to Boomi. So a lot of the early adopters for SuccessFactors actually looked into or implemented Boomi as their integration integration platform. And then the SAP Integration Suite was actually developed later on. So the question is like they see this pre-delivered content. They see things like the standard integration scenarios, for instance, between SuccessFactors and S4HANA, et cetera, use let's say the business integration builder, et cetera, which runs on the SAP Integration Suite. So they have these questions like, why consider the move? Well, because there is more native SAP integration or deeper connectivity within the whole SAP ecosystem of the integration suite. You also see the content and the features that we have, like event mesh, etc., to leverage that and have the ability to modernize now. So they see, okay, we have been running these integrations for a while. We have to update them and upgrade them anyhow. We should consider SAP Integration Suite. Now, the approach to drive business value, and I think this applies to other scenarios as well, where customers are on TIBCO or MuleSoft, et cetera, and they're considering like, hey, we want to leverage this. So instead of doing a pure technical lift and shift, it's really focus on incremental value creation. I think the hard part is I cannot just say, okay, I have these the list of integrations, I just move them over. A technical lift and shift, it's hard to build a business case for that. So it's really looking at those opportunities. So what we see most customers applying is what we call a smart migration approach. So again, coming back to identify strategic opportunities. So where do I need integration? Where do I need to renew it? And where am I spending money anyhow? And now I'm going to attach like the business case for doing that migration. So instead of saying I take what I have and move it over, I say, okay, how can I build better integration with these initiatives that I have? Leverage the templates, the patterns, reusable, apply, in other words, best practices, and then keep iterating that. And so we see customers say, okay, every opportunity I have, I'm going to say, when there's a new integration, I build it on BTP. When I need to modify existing integration, I look if I can move, if I have the business case to move. And as they go, they do an iterative approach to move off of the, let's say, the legacy platform.
Thank you. I see there are some questions about like the skills that are required for BTP and for enabling more the integration on top of the pre-built content. I think we'll go through those in other sessions of the series. So maybe one last question before we move on, just looking at the time. So you mentioned that the integration inventory is a critical starting point. I know you want to share more about the template, but when we have the list of the integrations, what should we look out for?
Well, definitely, let me pull up that content. So And we mentioned that before. So if you want to start anything, like you say, okay, I want to get started with my developing my integration strategy. Yeah, it definitely starts with the inventory. I mean, we see a lot of customers, like if we ask like, hey, can you give me a list? Sometimes that list is missing. Could be somewhere in Excel, could be in 2 Excels, 3 or more. And then there is like integrations in different areas. Could be reports, Excel sheets, etc. So bringing that all together is something you need to do regardless. So whatever you're going to do, whatever endeavor, if you don't have an inventory, I think starting to build one is key. Now, when you build a strategy for integration, you definitely, and that's what we listed here on the left. So why start with the inventory? Well, you need to identify opportunities for standardization and reuse. Why? Because it has that impact on the total cost of ownership. Next, you want to prioritize it. Remember, we need to build that plan on a page. So we need to know, well, which ones do we start first? Can we push some to let's say to a later time? So prioritize based on business impact. Then plan your resources and timeline. So for instance, what you could do is I list all the integrations and start you could start with t-shirt sizing now and say, okay, this is the effort it will take to build this. Here's my timeline, and start seeing that, and tying that then into the timeline will allow you to see how can I align with other initiatives going on. So if I do my implementation of success factors and integration at the same time, I can see where that fits. So it really builds the foundation for your business case. And we're going to provide a template as well, where you can start in Excel, where you can start mapping these out. It's also about geographic regions, countries that this applies to. Is this a payroll or time, benefits, etc.? And then what scope of data are we dealing with? And when you build that picture, now you're going to start seeing patterns, opportunities, etc. But this is where we have to rally everyone around this. Do we still need this? What can we get rid of? What can we consolidate? All of those questions come back to that inventory. So to me, that's the first step that everyone can take to get started.
Right, and then maybe one last, it's not really a question, more a compliment. So a really special thanks for one of our customers, Frank, that is saying that she's reliving the journey that we had together. So I think that's good to see also the recognition.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and this is all about, I think, the drive to enable our customers to take ownership. I think that's the key, and feeling in charge and feeling that you have the tools, the approach, you have control of that journey. I think that's really the key of preparing them. And if we look at one thing, maybe I'll pull up that if I have it here real quick, that proven framework that we say, this is, to me, is setting ourselves up for success. So making sure we're prepared to start our journey with the envision, and then within the model, enabling and enabling that team. I cannot repeat that more often, because that's really key in taking ownership. And even if you need more help to do that, but the ability to drive and feel that you're in control is what builds that confidence. And confidence will create great results to come out with what we showed here. These are tangible results that our customers are actually seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were questions about how to be enabled. So I think you're
Okay.
one more practical question. So there were questions about, can we also, how will the recording be shared? So we'll follow up and everyone will get access to the recording and the slides. I see it's time to wrap up. I think we wanted to tee up the next steps. And
Absolutely. Like in terms of next steps, other topics that we have in mind, and we're still shaping the agenda. We're targeting every 6 to 8 weeks actually to do one of these sessions to really showcase things around BTP specifically for HR. Remember we said like HR is unique and it is. So how do we approach things? So one of the things that we want to line up is success factor extensions. Why? Because once we have the data flow going and we have the systems connected, it's really important that we have a way to say, like, let's say our ecosystem covers 90% of what we need, but there's that 10% of things that really drive the strategy within our organization. So we want to have the ability to play with the data that we now have. So success factors extensions are a great way to do this. Where we want to, let's say, elevate this topic even more to tie it into integration is say, okay, what if we have multiple data sources, let's say success factors, and then a third-party system. So how do we combine that and then make sure that we have secure access to that? What do we do for security? But then also, how do we lower the cost of building in that environment by using tools like Fiori Elements and, for instance, the CAP or RAP framework? So we're going to showcase that with success factors extensions. The other topic that we see a lot of customers now looking at, especially customers adopting SaaS solutions, more and more vendors, for instance, say, hey, we can come and get the data. So instead of you having to build an integration and send the data over, no, we can come and get the data. Now, what you don't want to do is just hand over the keys to the SuccessFactors environment and say, okay, come and get everything that you, or just what you would like. So how do we build a secure way to consume that data, monitor that, and safeguard our infrastructure? And that also then translates to how do we have more internal developers, for instance, consume HR data in a simple way. And we call that our HR API marketplace, but it really showcases the combination of Integration Suite, CAP, and API management in the BTP suite. And then a third topic that is going to be front and center as well this year is with the new innovations coming from SAP, especially around HR and Joule, is what do we need to do to prepare to leverage this? Because enabling Joule is very quickly and can be quickly done and fast. What are the prerequisites, for instance, that we need to have in our environment to make that move easy, and how can we prepare? So that's another topic we have lined up. We're going to publish that on our LinkedIn page. So please, if you subscribe on that LinkedIn page, you will see these announcements with the exact dates coming by. And especially if you already attended this one, we also will send that out to that target group. And with that, I think we're at the end of the webinar, unless there are other topics, Gauthier, we need to cover.
No, I think it's time to wrap up. So thanks a lot for very good and comprehensive presentation, Frank, and Mick as well. And thanks everyone for the participation, and stay tuned for the next topics.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Thanks everyone.